Hello, and welcome to my video on how to make an 18th century shift. Just using a needle and thread and cloth, so it's completely hand sewn. I have already blogged about this on my blog, onebluethread.com, so you can check out that post and additional pictures that are not in this video, as well as links to the pattern I used and other miscellaneous resources and links. So be sure to check that post out. I think you'll find it very useful if you're trying to essentially emulate a similar project. So I hope you enjoy looking at how I made this, and it was, again, lots of fun to make, so I hope you enjoy my journey as well through this hand sewing project and many more to come in the future. So yeah, let's begin. Alright, so what I used were 3 yards of linen, needle, scissors, thread, pins, measuring tape. You can also use some thread wax. It's optional, you don't have to. It just helps to run the thread through this wax prior to hand sewing. It just essentially eliminates possible tangles. There's many ways to draft a shift pattern. I provide links below just to kind of get an idea of what these patterns might look like when you're looking to make a shift of your own. I essentially just created my own based on my own measurements and what I was particularly looking for in terms of length, meaning from shoulder to where I wanted to reach below my knees. I have also posted a PDF version of the pattern that I made, and it is also included in my blog post, so be sure to check it out if you want to see what my pattern is, what I drafted, and what the final shift came out to look like. After I figured out the length of the shift, the length of the arms, the width of the sleeves that I wanted, the length of the sleeves, I went ahead and just cut those pieces out, essentially giving everything about half an inch seam allowance. One more thing to note regarding the cutting of the shift, I went ahead and used a technique when I cut out the main pieces. Instead of just simply cutting them, I drew a thread out just one little bit, and what this does is it allows you to essentially get a very clean, straight cut, since you're removing one thread of that fabric and you're essentially just using that as your guide, so you'll end up with a very clean, straight edge. After I cut everything out, I went ahead and started sewing the main pieces together. First of all, I started with the gores, the side gore pieces. I sewed those up, again pinning. Something to note here, because I was working with linen, I did use a flat felled seam technique, which you can find other YouTube videos or resources online how to make this particular seam. What it does is it allows, you can't really zigzag by hand. I mean, it's arguably you could, but if you're working through, if you're just sewing by hand, you don't want those raw edges to unravel, and so a flat felled seam is something that's very easy to do. It's a very sturdy seam. It was used from the extensive, well, I say from the research that I've done. It seems like this is a pretty common seam as well. I mean, it makes sense. You're not really wasting material. You're not really wasting thread. It's a sturdy seam, very utilitarian. So, highly recommend if you want to try to get as close as possible to the historical garment that you're trying to copy. There's a lot of resources and materials out there. After I did the main side gores, the side body pieces, I sewed the sleeves up together. The sleeves were composed of 3 pieces. The main sleeve piece, again, this is just a rectangular square of linen. Then there was the cuff, longer than it was wide, and then the square gusset. So 3 pieces that the sleeve is constructed out of. Again, I just did the sleeve first, started with the main sleeve seam, gathered the cuff piece, attached the cuff to the main sleeve, turned out the raw edges, and then attached the gusset. And then once I was done with the sleeves, I went ahead and attached the sleeves to the main body of the shift. And then, first of all, and there was some slight gathering. So the main sleeve piece was slightly gathered to the main shift body, and I omitted gathering the gusset. It was just the main sleeve piece that was slightly gathered, with the exception of the gusset piece. Yeah, and then once I did that, it was just essentially sewing up the rest of the raw edges. This meant hemming the bottom of the shift, hemming the neckline. So then once I was done with the project, I just pressed it, and I put some ties into the sleeves. I had done 2 buttonholes on either part of the cuff, and I just used some ribbon to tie the sleeves together. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and if this video has at all inspired you to make your own. And also be sure to go ahead and click subscribe so you can follow me on my sewing adventures and future ones.